I'm now moving from the outside hoops to the innermost hoops. So first one we did was the horizon, then it was the celestial azimuth, the one that kisses on to the horizon ring. I'm now moving to the most inner ones, which are the square ones, this one here and this one here, which are the celestial longitude rings. And the reason I'm making this jump is because the poles and tropics and equator rings, which are that, and this one down here, plus this band here, they all sort of go on top of the celestial longitude square bars. So what I wanted to do is kind of work from the outside in and then from the inside out, tackling all these ones last. And there is also this these spaces between the celestial longitude and the celestial azimuth, and they're up there and down there. So the reason I wanted to work like outside in and then inside out is because I wanted to know what spacing I have exactly. This is actually, I've already done one of these square bars, these celestial longitudes. I aimed and I've my next square bar over here ready to be rolled into the same, but like I aimed for a 30mm gap, which I've got pretty damn well, but these spacers here are going to ultimately made from I'm going to get some solid spheres, and I'm going to use the power hammer to flatten them down a bit into sort of like squashed spheres, but I want to do them to suit the exact positions that they're going to go. So for argument's sake, like over there and over there. Now, like I said, I was aiming for a 30mm gap. It might be that where they go, there's like 29 and 31, or whatever. So what I want to do is squash these spheres, these solid spheres, bespoke to the exact gap. I don't want to have any the last thing I really want is like an extra bit of daylight gap. I want them to be exactly snug. So that's why I'm working outside in and then inside out. This is a good point to pause and point out a number of things. First of which being that obviously there's on the 25mm square rolled hoop that I've already done, and this is the one that's in progress. I've pre-rolled the whole length of it, somewhat obviously. The first thing to point out is that because the profile of the bar is square, there's as much width to it as there is depth, which means that it doesn't want to bow off and twist, etc., as the flat bar wanted to. So if I just come round and squat down and sort of ignore the white line that I've drawn on the inside for the moment, but you can see there's no bowing upwards like there was with the flat bar. It's just so much easier to do square bar. Okay, next thing being is that I've drawn this white line on the inside edge because, and then these lines that I've drawn on the bar and onto the floor are going to help me locate the bar in the same position again. Because what I'm going to do is now I'm going to focus at the rolling the ends of the bar, and what that's going to do is I'm going to roll from that white line there to the end of the bar, and that white line there to the end of the bar, or actually more to the point, from the end of the bar to that white line and the end of the bar to that white line. And what that will do is it will sort of bring it more into like a kidney bean kind of shape. And so the reason I've got these white lines here is that I will, after doing that, I'll bring it back over and put it on the ground, get these lined up, and you can see how these ends come in. And what I'll be ultimately doing is offering those rolled ends up to my board, which has the radius of the the hoop, so that I offer it up to the board, get the ends bent correctly, and then I return to rolling the area between the bends. Now, I did actually take this approach with this one, though I made a really stupid mistake, which I knew not to do, but I don't know why I did it. So the problem I did is that, okay, come back over to the roller. Effectively, on the top of the roller is a handle, and as you turn it, thread comes down and it brings this central roller closer to the two outside rollers. And the more that this roller comes down, the tighter the radius. So what I eventually did is incrementally, I'd tightened this, that end and that end, to the point at which they had rolled to the correct curvature. And then I thought, okay, great, well, now I've got the roller set to the right, like compression. I can just run the rest of the bar through and it will come out to the same radius as the ends. Wrong. The reason that's wrong is because you have to still like back off the roller and incrementally work this area up to the same as the ends. If you just run it straight through, it's at a different starting point. So what ended up happening is this area from like white line to white line crushed up so much more, which meant actually the ends went past each other. That meant I had to turn the ring upside down and undo it. So rather than the ring facing up that way, it faced downwards. The thing that I got lucky with is that there's actually enough height from the ground to the rollers. Had the ring been any bigger, I might not have been able to turn it upside down, and then I would have been in a real world of pain, because undoing it is a task. Again, having repeated that process and now got there to there correct and there to there correct, you can really see how much it pulls in the ends compared to the line that I scored on the floor. So now it's a case of working from there round to there, but as I just sort of made the point of, first of all, slackening off this top roller, not just immediately running it through, because that would cause it to pinch in too much. The reason I paused that there is because even though I'd got back to the same tension on the roller that I needed to be, that I got to the correct curvature here and here and here and here, it wasn't actually pulling it to the same curvature everywhere in the bar, and it was getting to the point where I was over tightening it, or going to start over tightening it, which would like in an attempt to tighten this area up, I would have been over tightening it here. So I paused because I thought there's something going wrong in the bar in that span somewhere, and it could just be because there's a hard spot in the steel or whatever. So by putting the bar on the drawing and looking for where it deviates from it, I found a spot here where the bar flows well in the drawing until here, and then because you can see this is the drawing line, and then from that point there the gap increases. So what I reckon is if I isolate a little bump with in it here, it will pull the ends together. And I'm going to use a particular fly press tool for that. So this is a particular piece of like bender for a fly press, which slots up like that, and then the securing bolt goes through and into the press. Normally all bending jigs for a press are under in the main throat area under the ram, but this is a little idea that I came up with which projects the bender beyond the face of the ram, which then means that you can bend a complete circle at the front of the press, because normally the body of the press gets in the way. Having put it just back on the drawing, I've noticed one other area where if it got a little bump it would be pulled together. So now that I've done that, you can see how the ends line up. And that's the beauty of this jig, is that it projects the hoop beyond the face of the fly press. Otherwise, normally what you're working on is under, so it would just hit into the fly press. So it's pulled it together a lot more. Just going to double check that. This is the hoop I've just done, made from 25mm square, and it's laid out in a 700mm box on the bench, so I can check that it's all fine. And this one's absolutely perfect. So if I show you here, for example, that's perfectly kissing onto the line there. It's perfectly kissing onto the line there, and even the seam line is bang on perpendicular, 90 degrees. I don't know what the phrase is, because I pre-marked it with center punch dots. Not that that matters really, because even if that cut was at an angle, it's still going to get welded and disguised. But it's just, you know, I don't know, just for being anally retentive, it's nice to know that the seam line is 90 degrees. Anyway, it's all good on this side, and then over here it's bang on as well. So what I've done is started to mark up these bits here, 25mm there, and 25mm over here. So the reason for that is that the other hoop, which is currently down here just on the floor, that will get put up onto here, and I'll do the same thing of positioning it in the square. And what I'm going to do is, because the other one will be going up and down like that, so sort of crossing this one, which means that the other one will need bits chopping off the end of it. So what I'll do is I'll put the other one on top, mark the points like that line and this line, and that's where I'll cut that one, and I'll cut it here and round there as well, so that when it gets put on top it's not too long, like there's not too much excess, if you know what I mean. This is hoop number 2, and what I was on about marking up these end bits here to cut those bits of excess off. Now hoop number 2 is actually the first one I made, which I said in an earlier video that I made a slight mistake in overdoing one area and having to undo it or whatever. Using this as hoop number 2 is actually quite handy, because it's the one that has these bits of excess off. So obviously around the seam line is where I would naturally cut the excess off on one side and then, you know, opposite it on the other, rather than doing like here and here, because I've got to weld over the seam line anyway. So I might, since there was already a cut there, I might as well just, you know, cut around there. But the handy thing about this is that you've noticed that there's an overhang of about 1mm here, which is good that I get to cut this off, because then it's like if this was the first one, then the first one would be out by 1mm. So the other one, which is like perfect, is like the master one, so to speak.